Dark clouds rolled across the sky like restless warriors preparing for battle. The smell of damp soil and pine drifted through the air as Xena and Gabrielle walked along a remote forest path. They were weary, yet comfortable in each other's presence, until the serenity shattered. A monstrous roar thundered through the trees. A hulking creature, a fierce giant, burst through the brush, raging and swinging its massive fists. Xena leapt into action. She flipped and rolled like a storm unleashed, but even she struggled against the beast's enormous strength. Gabrielle, gripping her staff with trembling hands, tried to stand firm. But when the giant struck, its power rattled her bones and sent her sprawling. The terrifying moment, her weapon torn away, her heart pounding, shook her to the core. Gabrielle, still gasping, watched as Xena battled on fearlessly. Something inside the young bard faltered. Fear, sharp and paralyzing, wrapped its claws around her spirit. And in that moment, a terrible thought struck her. Perhaps she didn't belong here at all. When the monster fled at last, Xena came to Gabrielle's side. But instead of relief, Gabrielle felt shame. "I can't do this," she whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "Xena, I almost died. I slowed you down. I don't want to be a burden. Maybe it's best if I go home." Xena's eyes softened, but Gabrielle had already made up her mind. And so, with a heavy heart, the two companions parted ways, just for now. The village of Prodigal looked much the same as Gabrielle had left it. Humble cottages, familiar faces, the distant glimmer of the sea. But something was wrong. Children no longer played in the open. Doors remained barred. Faces held worry rather than warmth. Before Gabrielle could take another breath, her sister Lila rushed into her arms. "Gabrielle!" she cried, laughing and crying all at once. Her joy, however, quickly faded. "You shouldn't have come home," she warned. The village was in crisis. Prodigal was being terrorized by a brutal warlord named Mythicius. His men prowled the roads, demanding tribute, grain, livestock, dignity. Standing against them was a lone protector, Meleager the Mighty. Now, Gabrielle had heard stories of Meleager, tales sung of a heroic warrior with unmatched skill and noble heart. But the man who stood before her was not what she expected. His hair untamed, his beard rugged, and his stance unsteady. In fact, Meleager looked like he had spent more time with wine than with his sword. "Who are you staring at?" he slurred, raising a brow as he gulped from a skin of ale. "Meleager," Gabrielle asked uncertainly. "At your service," he declared, tripping over his own feet. If fear had pushed Gabrielle away from Xena, disappointment now greeted her homecoming. Still, Meleager, despite his flaws, was all that stood between Prodigal and destruction. The villagers prayed for a miracle. Gabrielle, always the believer in better futures, refused to give up on him. The following day, the warlord's men struck again. They charged through Prodigal like wolves, destroying carts and terrorizing families. Meleager bravely, or perhaps recklessly, stumbled into battle, swinging wildly, shouting more than striking. To Gabrielle's surprise, even in his drunken state, flashes of skill glimmered. Meleager was not helpless, just lost. One enemy knocked him down hard and raised a blade for the finishing strike. Gabrielle stepped forward, staff shaking in her hands. Fear filled her, but so did determination. "I will not abandon my home." With a swift swing, she struck the attacker, giving Meleager just enough time to recover and chase the raiders away. Panting and terrified, Gabrielle realized something important. She could make a difference. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, but choosing to continue despite it. But not everything was well. A local magistrate declared Meleager a menace and sentenced him to death for his drunken lawlessness. Gabrielle fought fiercely against this decision. She stood tall before the villagers and pleaded, her voice filled with the fire she once doubted she owned. "You don't execute the only man protecting us," she insisted. "You give him a chance to be what he once was." The crowd murmured uncertainly. Then, slowly, hope prevailed and Meleager's execution was postponed. Afterward, Gabrielle confronted him privately. "You are better than this," she said, eyes firm. "My village needs you. I need you." Her words struck deeper than any sword. Meleager dropped his gaze, shame and regret washing over him. "You don't understand," he murmured. "Being a hero, it's easier when you're not sober. When you can forget all the people you couldn't save." Gabrielle placed a calm hand on his arm. "You can still save us now." And that, at last, stirred the warrior within him. With urgency, the village prepared for the inevitable attack. Gabrielle stepped up as a leader, guiding people into defensive positions, helping them find courage where only fear existed. And Meleager, sober for the first time in ages, sharpened his sword not just with steel, but with purpose. When Mezentius's forces arrived, the battle erupted. Dust flew, screams echoed, and metal clashed in violent rhythm. Gabrielle fought fiercely beside her fellow villagers. Though fear pulsed in her veins, she did not run. She had discovered the strength she thought she lacked. Meleager charged into the fray with incredible ferocity, his sword cutting through the enemy like a roaring river breaking through stone. This was the hero he once was, awakened by the encouragement of a young woman who believed in him. The villagers, inspired, fought harder. They defended their homes with everything they had. At last, Meleager faced Mezentius in a decisive duel. The warlord sneered, mocking the washed-up drunk. But Meleager rose victorious, defeating the villain with a triumphant blow. Mezentius's men scattered, retreating in panic. The crisis was over. When the dust settled, cheers filled the air. The villagers embraced one another, thankful for their survival and newfound bravery. Meleager, breathing heavily yet smiling humbly, stood before Gabrielle. "You saved this village," he told her. Gabrielle shook her head. "No, we did." Meleager laughed. A real, honest laugh. "You know, you remind me of someone, a warrior I once admired. Brave, strong, a leader." Her heart warmed with pride, but also with longing, because Gabrielle realized something deeper than the fear that had sent her running. She missed Zena, not just as a protector, but as a friend, a sister of the soul, someone who helped her see the world's greatness, and her own. "I think it's time for me to go back," she said, gazing toward the horizon. Lila hugged her tightly, tears sparkling in her eyes. "Promise me you'll come home again." "I promise." Meleager bowed playfully. "Give that warrior princess my regards. And Gabrielle, don't doubt yourself again." With her staff firmly in hand, she set off, no longer a frightened girl, but a young woman ready to face danger side by side with a friend she cared dearly for. As the sun dipped low, Gabrielle found Zena waiting along a quiet road, leaning casually against Argo, as though she knew Gabrielle would return all along. Gabrielle approached sheepishly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Zena smiled softly. "There's nothing to be sorry for. You did what you needed to do." "I discovered I can be brave," Gabrielle added. "I want to keep walking with you, if you'll still have me." Zena didn't answer with words. Instead, she opened her arms just a little, and Gabrielle rushed into a hug that felt like home. The warrior and the bard, stronger than before, continued onward, toward adventure, danger, and the bonds that would only grow deeper.